Good morning, it's June 9th, and this is To My Liberal Friends. I'm here in Washington, D.C. today and looking at some of the major issues. Well, immigration was a major issue in the elections last November. Trump continually pressed the issue, and the voting public only had to watch the news to see thousands upon thousands of immigrants massed against the border. They saw news reports of caravans of immigrants marching through Central America and Mexico with the stated goal of reaching the southern border of the United States. Over and over, we could hear interviews with immigrants in these caravans, and the overriding reason they could give for trying to enter the U.S. was for better economic reasons. I understand this goal, but I also understand that the United States cannot simply open its borders because people think they'll be better off economically if they could just get across that border. The Biden administration had effectively abandoned any pretense of border security and would simply allow immigrants to cross the border, turn themselves into Border Patrol agents, claim they wanted asylum, which was false claim in 95% of the cases, and they would be processed and allowed to enter. As the polling showed that the public was tiring of this constant wave of immigrants, the Biden administration turned to a new policy. They allowed immigrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela to simply board a plane and fly into the country. They would be given entry upon a parole program the administration began. Overall, this program allowed about 530,000 illegal immigrants into the United States without the public scrutiny that was occurring at the southern border. Initiated in 2022 and expanded in 2023, the CHNV allowed aliens from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela to enter these U.S. airports after passing minimal security checks and securing a sponsor. Many of the sponsors all seemed to live at the same address. Framed as a humanitarian effort, it was a calculated move by the administration to remove the image of the chaotic southern border from the news cycle. By flying foreign nationals directly into U.S. cities, the Biden team also sought to reduce visible overcrowding at the border itself, which became a political liability. This sleight of hand was not about compassion, but about political expediency that prioritized optics over national interests. The CHMB program granted temporary patrol to more than 500,000 of these aliens, allowing them to live and work in the U.S. for up to 2 years. This mass parole scheme bypassed congressional authority and overwhelmed the border securities as it incentivized further legal migration by signaling that entry to the U.S. was achievable with minimal scrutiny. Immigrants immediately looked for loopholes in the program, and a report by the Federation for American Immigration Reform found the program was riddled with fraud. Among the revelations were that 100,948 program applications were completed by just over 3,000 sponsors. 24 of the 1,000 most used Social Security numbers belonged to a dead person, and one sponsor's phone number was submitted on more than 2,000 forms. There were 2,839 forms with non-existent sponsor zip codes. To date, there's been no further details on the alleged fraud, and no one from the Biden administration was held accountable. All of this is about to come to an end. The Trump administration sought to end this program, and of course, they ended up in court as immigration lawyers tried to stop them. The Supreme Court correctly allowed the administration to terminate the program while the case proceeds on appeal. By upholding the president's authority to end this program, the court indicated that the Trump administration is likely to win the case on the merits. After all, it was a presidential program initiated by Biden, so it only makes sense that a president could end it. It would be a major step by the court in reaffirming that immigration policy must align with the legal frameworks as well as the will of the American people. Anyone looking at polling on the issue shows there's an overwhelming support for stricter enforcement of immigration laws. In reality, what the court has done is issue a ruling that conforms with the mandate delivered by voters last November. The liberal wing of the court objected, as would be expected, with Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson arguing that the ruling would cause, quote, devastation for these migrants, end quote. I wish she would show the same concern for the citizens of our nation who've had their lives severely impacted, in some cases taken, by the massive immigration that took place during the Biden administration. The program allowing these migrants from 4 selected countries was not sustainable, nor was it a legal pathway for immigration, but it certainly was part of the overload to the current system. It is supposed to be a temporary stay for no more than 2 years, but how many of you think they're intending to leave after the 2-year mark? They will hire an attorney and seek any possible way to remain in the U.S. I get it. I understand why they would want to stay, but we simply cannot allow everyone that wants to come here to do so. The resources are already exceeded, and the cost to taxpayers become an overwhelming burden. Finally, today in Los Angeles, ICE agents swept up a large group of immigrants with lengthy criminal records. The result was large protests that turned violent. President Trump federalized the National Guard and sent them in to assist in keeping order. Governor Newsom objected and said the protests were peaceful. The media hedged their bets and said mostly peaceful, but the videos show what's happening and they don't lie. We saw a car on fire and some protesters throwing rocks and injuring law enforcement officers. Trump has made it clear he will not allow the same kind of public and private destruction that was allowed during the Biden administration. If you violate the law, you will be arrested. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening.